Everywhere we go, I and I will go there. And everything he said, oh yes it is. So I can die and die and die and die, Melody. Come on, it goes, Melody. Follow, Marcus, yeah, I can die and die and die and die, Melody. He never commit no crime. He always do right. So I can die and die and die. Follow, Marcus, yeah, I can die and die and die. Follow, come on.
Greetings, family, and welcome to another episode of Unity and Solidarity TV. Today's date is Friday, February 9th, 2024. My name is Bakari Makaru, and I have the pleasure to be your host. Of course, today's live podcast will be streamed via various platforms, which is, of course, our YouTube channel, which is at Unity and Solidarity TV, as well as my personal Facebook page, which is bakari.makeru. And cannot forget the UNIA ACL St. Martin chapter, also on Facebook, where you can follow today's discussion. Family, if you appreciate our content so far, then please do us a huge favor and like, follow, share, subscribe to our Facebook pages and YouTube channel. And of course, share. And don't forget, if you would like to be a guest on Unity and Solidarity TV to discuss an important issue, then simply send us an email at unityandsolidaritystv@gmail.com or send me a direct message via Facebook, again at Bakari Makaru, to book your appointment. I have a big and serious announcement for you all. Tomorrow, Saturday, February 10th, 2024, Mindful Elevation Caribbean is hosting another engaging and informative discussion on domestic violence and restorative justice with special guest, Miss Jamie Morillon. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. The discussion starts at 7 p.m. St. Martin time and will be streamed live on Facebook at mindful.elevation.caribbean. And of course, your host will be none other than Dr. Ramonda Hanza. Family, my special guest this evening is Miss Natasia Verheijen. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. And during the next 60 minutes, we are going to discuss what she believes is hair discrimination at school and, of course, explore various solutions. Good evening, Ms. Natasia, and thank you for accepting the invitation to be a guest on Unity and Solidarity podcast. And before we begin, would you please be so kind to introduce yourself to the family?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Natasia, and yes, introduce myself. So I'm a mom of two, and I have a degree in a bachelor in social work.
All right, thank you. Short and to the point. All right, so let's get right into it. Right, I would like to know, why do you believe, and of course we would love some background information to provide context to our viewers, but please tell us, why do you believe that the school's uniform policy is discriminatory?
Um, the hair policy, I believe, is discriminatory for many, many reasons, actually. A few of them that we can dive into as we are talking. Um, yeah, first of all, it's discriminatory based on gender or sex, because it's affecting boys more than girls. Yet there are also very strict rules for girls as well. Um, Including not having beads in their hair, not having braids or weave, not exceeding a certain length. So it is all quite interesting when you really delve into it.
Okay, and next to that, right? Because of course, many persons might be like, prior to enrolling, right? I am sure that the school would have said, well, you know what, here are our rules, and if you want your child to enroll, we are requesting that you abide by these rules. Correct? So
Indeed.
it's common. So why not simply say, well, you know what, these rules are a bit too strict, and I'm going to find another school for my child or children.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might say that, might think that, but when you're in a position as a parent yourself and you're wanting to have the best education for your child, you are gonna weigh some stuff. You're gonna have some pros and cons, and you don't always know how you feel about it until it's really happening to you, right? So sometimes we think, oh, it's a bit weird, it's a bit strange, it's a bit too strict, but I can live with it. But then when you maybe see how it's affecting your child, and then you're already in it, it becomes a little bit different, right?
Okay. And do you think many children are affected by this particular policy?
Well, I have heard from other parents that they are, and we've also seen in the recent Teen Times. I think it was from the 24th or 25th of January. The Teen Times had a big article about how it's affecting uh, children and youth and the teenagers here in St. Martin, the hair policies.
Okay. And then earlier you talked about, you provided us with a gendered perspective when it comes to the hair policy. Could you explain to what extent you would say, like boys in familiar in particular, is it that they're not allowed to have long hair, locked hair, straight hair? Well, what is
Yes,
exactly
all of
the
it.
issue?
All of it. All of what you're
All of
saying,
it.
they're not allowed.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they are not allowed to have hair longer than 1 inch, which basically means you have to trim the boy's hair very short, whether you have afro, whether you have straight hair, whether you have curly hair, I mean, it doesn't matter what type of hair you have. It needs to be um, extremely short, like military cut, basically. That's what it is, 1 inch. I mean,
But then what is the reasoning behind it being 1 inch?
so
Because yes, go ahead.
sorry, I didn't let you finish. Um, so yeah, there's not a lot what we're getting back when we have asked. There's two main reasons that keep being repeated, which is the children need to be groomed, and the other one is the children need to be uniform. So they say that um, all the boys having short hair the same length, um, I guess in very simplified terms, looks better, is more uniform, and um, that's what they want.
Okay.
So it's a bit strange to me, because then I also explained to them, I said, you cannot really say that because you already have a uniform, right? And you already have the rule that everybody has to wear the uniform. It has to be worn in a certain manner, shirt tucked in, belt, black shoes, white socks. Um, and it's also very different when you have to wear your uniform during the day in school, and then when you go home or when you go to afternoon school, you take it off. But yet with your hair, and especially for the boys, if you would like to have long hair, you cannot magically have long hair in the afternoon and in the weekends or in vacation, and then in the morning it's magically short for when you have to go to school. Um, so that is, of course, it goes into their private sphere, it goes into their private life, um, which is affecting them.
Affecting them how?
Affecting them how in it's affecting their sense of self, because there's a sense that children, especially young children, they have very literal minds. So when it's constantly being hammered that you need to have short hair as a boy, you need to have short hair, you need to have short hair, your hair needs to be cut, your hair needs to be groomed, um, and it can make that impression on young minds that if I have long hair or if I want long hair, then I'm bad because it's not allowed in school. And of course, this is not true. You are not bad because you have long hair or because you want long hair. Um, and it also is affecting them in their self-expression, because your hair is a way that you express yourself, maybe culturally or artistically, or all kinds of ways that you can use your hair to express yourself. You want to look, for example, some teachers do that. They want to look strict, they put their hair in a bun. When they go out of school or when they go out in the night, their hair is loose, their hair is out, right? So there's a lot of ways that also children would be able to use that, boys and girls, if they would get that opportunity to have healthy self-expression in their appearance.
Okay. And are you aware of okay, let me put it this way. Let's say, for example, a child or a boy in this particular instance, his hair is 2 inches.
Mhm.
Okay. How do they measure it? Do they just look? Do they take a ruler? How do they determine it's more than the 1 inch? Because I'm very curious now.
I'm very curious about that as well. To be honest, I have been afraid to ask, but I did hear from others. Like, for example, I heard from people that have their child in St. Dominic, they actually went to measure their hair with a measuring tape. So yes, I really hope that children in primary school are not violated like that. But I don't have proof of that. Whether it's happening or not, I don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, don't know. So I don't know if that's just a story to make it seem worse, because I would find that quite terrible if that's being done.
Wow. And let's say, do you think it's a growing problem? On the, I mean, next to the article that was written by Teen Times, but from where you're at,
Mhm.
do you really think it's a growing problem amongst children with their hair in school?
I don't know if it's a growing problem, but I would say it looks like a growing problem. It's like, when things advance in medicine and you get more diagnosis because we can find more. But this is the same. Like, we are teaching our children to be critical thinkers. We are teaching them to, question things in society. And so, of course, then what they also question is certain rules, certain regulations that are affecting them, which is their right to do so, under the rights of the child as well. Um, but so then it looks like a bigger problem, or it looks like it's a growing problem, but it was actually always there. But maybe we didn't raise children to express that. They were just supposed to, be seen, not heard. That's what the older generations were taught. And I think the children from now, they are free to tell their parents, I don't like that. I really don't want to do that. And then, we kind of talk to them, discuss with them, and try to take things into consideration when it's possible.
All right. And I would imagine that there's a number of parents who are also confronted with this particular situation. Um, what what would be their next step, so to say? Because we know, for example, many might have concerns about the strict hair policy. Maybe you were able to hear some of the whispers amongst the parents. What is the general sentiment in your opinion?
I think the general sentiment is that is nonsense, that it doesn't make sense that these rules exist, that it's overbearing, that it should be a parent's decision how the child's hair is done, uh, and whether that parent decides to discuss that with the child or not, that is then up to the parent, right? So if I would allow my son to have long hair, um, then that is my choice as a parent with my child. But for others, maybe they would still keep their child's hair short because it's easier, right? So that I think that is what a lot of people feel like, it's a decision for the home, for the parents, and for whoever is raising the child, not for the school to decide.
And are you aware of any cases where, okay, let me put it this way. Let's say, for example, a child comes to school and breaches the hair policy. What happens then? Is there a warning? Is there detention? Is there suspension? What happens then?
Well, you do get a letter that your child's hair needs to be cut. Um, And then how it is in the primary school, I do not know, but I know that in the high school, so St. Dominic would be the only Catholic high school there is on the island that I know of, at least, is that you get suspended in school suspension. I have understood that that happens. That is what I understood from the newspaper article. So then you're allowed to come to school, I guess, but not you're not allowed to be in class. I'm a little confused as to how this works exactly, because either way, the child is then deprived of education that is mandatory.
So they just come to school and sit in a class all day?
I honestly, I that
Okay.
is something that I have not fully understood myself how that works.
Okay. All right. All right. I would have to do some more history on that.
Yeah.
And and is this a phenomenon around the Catholic schools, or if you are aware, is it across the board?
So I know the public schools, I believe they're not allowed to have these rules. And I do know that the Seventh-day Adventists have similar rules. I do not know the extent to what is exactly in their rules, and I think also the Christian schools have something similar, but I'm not sure again how far-reaching it is, and what are the inches, what what do they allow and what not, and how strict they are with applying those rules.
Okay.
Maybe
And
some of
and
the viewers would even know that I do not know.
yeah, maybe they can help out. Oh, there you go. I see that we have a comment here from SXM Academy SBO. Person says, however, children as human beings are not uniform. You have children of different ethnicity. So how will that work out? Thank you so much for that question.
I
And I think that
I
speaks
totally
to,
agree with that.
yeah, that
Yeah.
speaks to exactly what you was talking about, because ultimately we would imagine that the purpose of going to school is to acquire an education, right? And upon just doing my own research, there are some policies that suggest that so long as the child's hair is not a danger or a distraction to learning, right? It is permissible, of course, with the how do you say, permission from a particular body within the school. All right, so it's not really too strict, so to say. They are more focused on the child's education, right, than on the child's appearance, as it were. So there is that space for your own uniqueness, providing that it does not go beyond, let's say, what can be considered a distraction for some students, like, for example, with the long hair, they would say, as long as it's not over your eyes, it shouldn't be a problem,
Yeah.
things like that. But there's a very passionate discussion going on, when it comes to natural hair in these institutions, because despite all of the progress we've made, certain institutions choose to maintain certain policies that we would call obsolete,
Yes,
Um,
indeed.
all right. So I want to touch on your petition, right? You launched a petition, and of course, I would imagine it's making its rounds, right, on the internet, and gaining momentum. But I'm wondering if you would be so kind, right? Because maybe many persons still aren't aware, or they probably did not have the chance to read it. All right. Would you be willing to perhaps read it or give a synopsis of your petition?
Yes, of course, no
Yes.
problem.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
So, so the petition is called "Abolish Hairstyle Rules in St. Martin Schools." And it starts with a little bit of information that my son, like many other children in St. Martin, is being subjected to outdated and arbitrary hairstyle rules. Despite his hair being neat and posing no danger to himself or others, it is deemed too long by the school authorities. We take him to the barber nearly every 2 weeks, which not only infringes on our personal freedoms, but also disrupts his sense of self esteem and identity. The focus of school should be on education, behavior management, and nurturing social emotional skills rather than policing hairstyles. The current rules reflect a colonial mindset that have no place in the 21st century. Our children deserve better. Research shows that when students feel comfortable with their appearance, they perform better academically. This is from the American Psychological Association. By enforcing those archaic hairstyle rules, we are potentially hindering our children's academic performance and emotional development. It's time for all schools in St. Martin to join the 21st century by abolishing these outdated hairstyle regulations. Let us leave decisions about hair and hairstyles up to parents and children where they rightly belong.
Thank you. And how much? When did you start the petition?
I started the petition in the beginning of January, January 9th.
And it's still available online.
It's still available online. I could copy the link and put it in the chat.
That would be great. That would be great for those persons who would like to support it. And then tell me, how many signatures have you gathered so far?
744.
And what's the target?
Well, the target is always increasing as that works with the change.org. So before the target was 50, then it became 100. Now the target is 1,000,
Okay.
which of course would be amazing if we can make it to that or even more.
Okay. And then what happens after you've got? Oh no! Before I get to that, when it comes to your concerns with regards to the hair policy at the school, did you make any attempts to reach out to management, the board, to have a meeting, to express your concerns, to hopefully find some sort of middle ground? And if so, what was the result?
Yeah, so I have, together with a group of parents, we are, I think, with 9 in total,
Oh
or
wow.
maybe 10,
Okay.
that we made a letter, which we all agreed with, we signed, and we have sent out to them. We did get an acknowledgement of receipts, but unfortunately not any in-depth answer yet. We have requested a meeting with them. We have explained all our arguments with academically based research, with a literature list, so they know that, hey, we are coming from a good place. We are not trying to force our opinion on you. We're just trying to explain, it's 2024 and there's a lot of changes in the world since this rule was made, and I think I hope they're going to acknowledge that and see that there's different ways to move forward.
And in your letter, did you already propose specific changes that you would like to see in the particular hair policy?
What we actually, that is in the ideal world, it would be a complete ban of hair policies, mainly because if we are going to change the rules, it might actually become more discriminatory, because then it becomes very subjective. For example, oh, hair needs to be neat, or hair needs to be washed, or hair needs, then it can happen that, oh, my child's hair might look greasy because it has gel, and then all of a sudden they be like, oh no, your child cannot come because they didn't wash their hair, right? So we don't want the rules to become different or vague. We just want the rules to completely go, and maybe it should just have something very simple, that hair should not pose a danger to the child or other students, which I think is almost impossible unless your hair is sweeping over the floor and you can trip over it and you can trip other people. Then that might be dangerous.
Okay. And would it be an idea? I don't know if your group has done it as yet, but would it be an idea to perhaps look into the hair policies or the uniform policies of the different schools, not only on the island, but also maybe in the region?
Yeah,
And
so
the reason, okay, good.
we have looked into it a bit. And we know that Guyana abolished hair policies. So in Curacao, the Catholic schools don't have hair rules. And I believe in Anguilla, somebody told me 2022,
That's correct.
they also banned these hair policies.
So in essence, you're telling me that St. Martin is lagging behind. That's what I'm
I'm
hearing. That's what I'm hearing. You didn't
I'm
say
not.
it, but that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I do understand that's what you're hearing, and I think it's partly true in a sense that the public schools are not doing it, but yet the religious based schools are still doing that, which, yeah, they are then not going with the movement, I guess, not going with the times. So maybe they are lagging a bit. And yes, I do wish country St. Martin would have legislation about it, so that it wouldn't be possible for them to do it. But there is some legislation, like, you're not allowed to discriminate on sex, or on skin color, or on hair. I guess hair is not mentioned, but that is part of how you are born. So it should not be allowed at the end of the day.
Okay. And let me ask this, because to my understanding, there has been a number of court cases in the past where you would have a school board would let's say accused, maybe a strong word, but accused a child or a family for violating the uniform policy, right? So there is cases in the past where this went as far as to court. Now I'm hoping that it does not reach to court, but it's
Yeah, I hope so
always
too.
interesting to watch the interplay between the school's policy, right,
Mm-hmm.
versus the Constitution.
Yes, indeed.
You
This
know,
is
it's
very
going to be,
interesting.
yes,
We
you
also
know,
touched upon that
mhm.
in the segment with Laser 101, which there was a court case, I think, in 2016. From what I found is that the family won the court case. They had the ruling in their favor. Yet um, they're still enforcing the rules. And there seems to be a bridge that uh, they need to cross. They need to make a bridge between the Ministry of Education and the Catholic School Board, and maybe also the other school boards that have a religious background. Because to be very honest, nobody is above the law. And also, St. Martin also signed on to the rights of the child. In my memory, it's somewhere 2013, but it might have been later. Um, and so in that, we have an obligation to uphold um, the law and also the rights of the child. And that is not just for the government, it's for every individual to the best of their ability. And if we are having court cases and we are sending research to the school board, and that is kind of being ignored or denied, I'm not saying it will, but it could be, then that kind of shows that not everybody is doing their part, and as they should. And I think we have seen that a few times now. And I think that is really a job of the Ministry of Education, especially the Minister of Education. Hopefully, the new person, whoever that may be, will put some effort into that relationship, so that it will be strengthened and it will be more of a on one line with what it should be.
Okay. I for one would be very interested to read the verdict. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I pressed the button. So I'm back. Right? Yeah, so I would be very curious to hear or to read the verdict, right? Because usually when the court makes a ruling, um, we would see a section on what needs to be changed, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken, you know? So I would be
Yes,
curious to know whether recommendations were made to change or to review its policies, because it would look a bit confusing to me that one family would go to court, right, regarding a particular issue. The court makes a ruling on a particular policy. Yeah, the court says that this policy goes against the Constitution, for example, but then the policy remains the same. And then here comes another family who is going to approach a court, right, to make a decision on the very same policy that it had already done previously. So that has, you see, I'm even scratching my head because it's a bit confusing to me, you
it is a
know.
bit confusing, and it even had me, because that even had me thinking that the school board had won the court case, and then somebody I know, he sent me the article in the Daily Herald, like, Nate, no, they didn't. I'm like,
Correct,
so how how does this work exactly? I don't
correct,
know.
correct,
Um, yeah, so that is a
correct.
bit complicated, and that is a thing. Um, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a legal background, so that is a bit complicated to me, because sometimes what feels right and wrong is not necessarily unlawful. So yeah, that is a bit complicated, and I would love to also see. I think some people had mentioned Shamira Rosenberg looking into this when she's in parliament, but I don't know if she will. But it would be interesting to hear her views about it actually.
Okay. And just for the record, and I mean, you don't have to tell me, you can just blink or, have you already, have you, I mean, because you raised it, so I'm curious now, have you had a discussion with legal minds about this particular matter?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. No,
Okay.
I really hope we don't come there. We don't have to go there. I would love for it to remain respectful and open-minded and, looking at the best interest for our children and not having a, how do you say that? Like,
A bad relationship.
not bad relation, but also not like I don't want it to become like an ego thing. Like I'm right, you're wrong. Oh no, blah blah blah. And
Mhm.
who's the boss and who's gonna,
Yes, yes,
you know,
yes.
I really would prefer if if we can all objectively look at the research and do what is right for our children
Correct.
and
And just, yes, go ahead, go ahead.
have them develop in full um expressive human beings as they should, because when they go outside in the world and they will go to college and they will have jobs, or they will go to craft school, they will see people with all different kinds of hairstyle and all functioning people in society, whether you have locks, whether you have beads, whether you have a ponytail or a man bun, it all doesn't matter.
I mean, we can just keep it local. We had a minister of education that had natural hair, that had locks.
Of
You know,
course,
I lived in Holland for a number of years. I've seen police officers with tattoos,
everything.
earrings, natural hair, and they're doing their job. All
Even
right.
in the
I
army
mean,
in the Netherlands, we don't have such strict rules anymore about the hair, that it has to be a certain length or
there you go.
whatnot.
And the thing is too, because I know you mentioned about the way how the constant cutting of hair would make a child feel. I'm also looking at it from an economic perspective. If you have a child who is fortunate to have fast growing hair, right? It could
Yeah, like my
mean,
son.
there you go. It could mean that maybe every week or every week and a half or so, you'll either need to have a very good friend who's a barber or learn to cut hair yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
So
so
that
there's
is
that
very
economic
interesting.
part.
I did want to touch upon that because, well, we are not one of those families. I think everybody has to make some uh, mindful decision when it comes to spending money, but we do have money to bring our child to the barber. But before, actually, he was terrified. He was very like crying and screaming, and I always used to have my mom or my mother-in-law cut his hair. I even tried a few
Mm.
times myself, but I'm no I don't have a steady hand, so that's not good. um and because his hair grows very fast, and before he had longer hair, and I always only used to just cut so that it wouldn't be in front of his eyes, right, the bangs. But he was terrified, and then at some point he had to go to school and he had to sit in my lap and he was crying, and we had to have him watch something on the telephone because otherwise he would constantly be like scared and like,
Yes, yes,
you know
yes.
it was really very hard to see as a mother, of course, but also I have heard from multiple parents that their children had to go through this, and that some children are even, well, traumatized might seem like a big word, but they are, for example, now in high school, and they are refusing to go to the barber. They do not want nobody to touch their hair. And that that as a parent, and I think as any adult, should make you care, because this is not a healthy response. You should have the freedom of your heart and in your mind that you can have short hair if you want or have long hair if you want, but that it shouldn't be like, oh, I don't want nobody to touch me anymore. I don't want nobody to touch my hair anymore. That's why I have long hair, right? Not to say it's not beautiful or whatever, but is it really then wondering what is it really your heartfelt decision, right? Or is it the trauma response? And that I think is just hard to see for parents when that happens to your child.
Not to cast judgment on anyone. Are you fearful that this initiative that you've taken may have consequences um, on your child's education or his learning experience? I mean, and like as a group, right? Are there fears amongst the parents that it
I
may
think
disturb the learning environment?
I have heard that from people that they don't want to sign a petition, they don't want to share it, um, because they are scared of retaliation, that their child will maybe not be allowed to either stay in school or to continue the education in the school that they are at, um, or even other ways, because sometimes people are like, yeah, you never know how it may come back to bite me. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And you can never really know, can you? Unless when it happens and you are quite certain. But yeah, I think I'm kind of a sucker to see the good in humanity and just think that I just hope that it will not happen. And again, because I do not do it out of a personal vendetta, it's really for the benefit of the children. I just want to reiterate that, like, the children should have the chance, to have some freedom where it is possible. And this is one of those things where it should be possible. It is healthy for them. It is good for them to make some decisions about how they look, about how they express themselves. Because if they don't learn now, when will they? Then they will be already so much older, and then they have much more to lose with those decisions. And now they don't really have anything to lose. So now is the time to have that chance to experiment.
What would you tell parents, right? Who express concerns about supporting the petition? What would you tell them with the hope of maybe getting them to reconsider their position and help them to understand the importance of this particular initiative?
So one important thing to know is that you can sign the petition anonymously.
Okay.
That is important to know. There is an option to do that. So when you go to sign, you can choose to not have your name shown, that you want to sign anonymously, and that is completely fine. And then you do get an email, but that will not be made known to anybody, right?
Okay.
It's just within the server of I don't know how that works. I'm not very technical, but I don't see it. Nobody will see it. So, and then the other thing is, I think what we often forget is we feel there's only a few people that have power, but we forget that power is of the people, and there's power in numbers. So the more of us that sign, the more of us that speak up, the more of us that, keep mentioning this subject, the more it's going to open minds, the more that it's going to open hearts, and then the more chance we have to actually have it sway in the favor of the children.
Okay. And I would imagine that persons can leave comments with the petition,
Yes, they
right?
can. Indeed.
What were some of the comments, if any, that persons decide to note down, if you can recall?
Yeah, some people said, "What would Jesus do?" and um, and others were like, there was one, and it kind of kind of, as a mom, kind of broke my heart. There was one that was like, I want my long hair, with like a crying
Yes.
emoticon. And there were just a few people that had expressed, like, it's not from 2024, this rule. It should be banned. It's discriminatory. It's racist. Somebody said it's colonial. People have mentioned different things. Yeah, so it was interesting to read. But what I loved most is, what would Jesus do? Would he cut his hair, or would he stand up for
Well,
the right thing for our children?
correct. Correct. I mean, chances are Jesus had hair like long hair too. So I mean, you
Definitely,
know,
definitely.
right? But that's interesting because um, we live in a small society, and of course, every person has their own concerns, right? But I just wanted to commend you for what you're doing, because many persons would have just been like, well, hair grows back, let's suck it up, and then we think about what's the next step, or we just think about our own self-interest. You
Yes.
understand? So
I
yeah,
do
go ahead.
understand that people have mentioned that, like, oh, you are not your hair can, you know,
Grow back.
be cut, your hair can grow back. And the thing is, this is such a long time period in a child's life, right? And again, this is significantly affecting boys more than girls, but yet it's also affecting our girls,
Okay.
because there's also rules for them. Um, but the fact is that when you look back at pictures of your child, you're not getting back that time. So, for example, there's lots of people I know, their child had beautiful long hair or curls or whatever.
Mm,
And then when they went to school, and so you will always see that transition in the pictures. You will always remember that, um, how that felt, how that was. Your child will probably always remember that it maybe wasn't their personal choice to do that. So yes, your hair can grow back. Um, that is absolutely true. Yes, we are so much more than our hair, but yet our hair is so intricately connected to our identity and our self-expression. Oh, sorry. um, that it does affect us in more ways than one. And you can talk to anybody who had cancer or has alopecia. Did I
that's a
say that
good point.
correctly?
That's a good point.
And it affects them. It affects them. And of course, there comes an acceptance or not, but it is. And again, there's so much research about that, about hair and self identity and hair and expression. And I also put the literature list on the petition page. So if you are interested
Okay.
in that, then just please go there and check it out. Click the links, read some of it for yourself because it's extensive and it's interesting.
Okay, that would be good. That would definitely be interesting for the viewers
Yes,
to
indeed.
look into. I think it would be I think it would definitely be a healthy discussion, to continue, with the hope that the right people hear these discussions, and they would be willing to, perhaps
Yes, indeed.
revisit some of the policies and such. Because as you rightly pointed out, around the region, right, government has taken a very decisive stance when it comes to the hair policy of various schools. All right.
Mhm.
I'm reading here from SXM Academy SBO, and I quote: "If Catholic schools on other islands do not have these rules for hair, what is it then? What is it that schools here keep holding on to them?"
Yes.
It's so funny because I remember, during while I was in university, I was reading a particular book on religion, and there was one Catholic priest that had it made a decree that says that you can only eat fish on Fridays, right? And then when they started doing their investigation as to why, the priest said you have to do eat fish on Fridays is because he and his friend would catch and sell fish. So if everyone has to catch and if everyone has to eat fish on Friday, right? It means then that they would be guaranteed a source of income. But that's just a light-hearted joke. I see
Yes, I
here
understand that.
I see here someone wants to join the conversation. I think the mic is muted. So there you go. And if you would be so kind and put on your camera, there you go, Miss Najila.
So I thought I was just coming into the I didn't know I was coming on
No,
the
you
live.
live. You live. Yeah.
Hi guys.
Thank you for joining.
Oh,
So
good night. I just stepped in.
okay, not a problem. Not a problem. Not a problem. So if you want, you can tune in, drop a comment, drop a question. We good. We is we.
Easy.
Let me go back to the comments. I see here from SXM Academy SBO, who says, because we see children as persons with no brain, no mind to think and have emotions. Hence the reasons that, like hair, we still dictating how they have to have their hair. Right. And then Dr. Ramonda Hanza of Mindful Elevation says, yes, and Martin is lacking in a lot of things. Girl, you preaching to the choir. You definitely preaching to the choir. But yeah, so that was a little joke, because sometimes when we look at certain policies, right, and we start to question, we just wonder, right, what is the end game of it? Right? What is the ultimate objective? What behavior, what competence, what discipline should come about as a result of this particular policy? And quite frankly, what interest should it serve? You see, especially if there is a shift in attitudes, specifically from the bottom up, why not have the conversation? Right? And that's a question that's on my mind right now. Why not just simply have the conversation? It's not a
Yeah.
new conversation, right? It's been happening for a number of years now. So what is the issue? All right, you all are in a better position than me to answer that question. But coming back to what I was saying, that I really have to commend you and your group, your team, for taking this particular action, because we all know that major changes in the world came about through a dedicated handful of persons. You see, and I'm hoping that what you're doing gains traction, gains momentum, and that you can have that conversation with policyholders, policy writers, policy advisors, the management of the board, to bring your points across, and then maybe you can have some sort of understanding.
Yes, that's what we are hoping for as well.
Yes, Najila, you good? Can you quiet now? I like when
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm just
you're right here.
trying to get my
Okay.
words. I'm here.
Okay, good. So you said that you received an email confirming receipt regarding your letter, right?
Yes.
Again, I don't want to put you in a spot, but how long would be a reasonable amount of time to wait to expect a message? If you don't want to
They
answer this,
have given us no, they have given us I mean, I'm very transparent and open, and I don't think that it's illegal to share the message that I have received. So they have said that they would get back to us within 3 weeks or after 3 weeks, which is quite a long time, but I do understand that, because of course boards don't meet every week, so we do have to respect their time as well and their effort. And then I did put in my agenda that after 1 month I'm gonna just if I didn't hear from them, I'm gonna just
Send another
pop them
email.
another email. Yeah.
Like, hey, we're still
Yeah.
waiting for a moment.
Okay, and then
Indeed.
because earlier you said that you were on another radio station, so you're going to continue visiting the different radio stations to raise awareness of of the group's cause, of course. Is that correct?
If Najila's up for it.
Well, we'll do our best to continue spreading the word.
Okay.
If they will have us, of course.
Okay.
Yes,
You
Okay.
have to be
indeed.
willing to have the conversation.
And then I
Indeed.
noticed that the petition is online,
Yes,
right?
it
Will you also consider doing a physical petition where people can actually sign and that you can collect signatures, or maybe not?
I don't know how feasible that is, to
Okay.
be very honest, time wise. And also, again, with the fear that people have of retaliation, it might
Mm,
not be actually worth it, to be very honest.
okay. Okay. All right. The reason why I asked is because I would not want that you presented the petition in this particular format, right? And then because of a what do we call it? Because it didn't meet a kind of criteria, that it might be deemed inadmissible.
admissible.
That's my fear, because for example, they would say, well, you know what, Johnny here, for example, who signed, he lives in Bangladesh. So what is his interest in this particular, you know, so I
Good
would not
point.
want,
Very good.
your efforts, right, to be lost in that particular discussion. You see, so that's the only reason why I asked you. All right. I mean, I don't have much experience in this. Najila, you know this. I don't have no experience in this.
This is my first petition. I have no idea how it
Me
goes.
I
too.
don't. I'm bad with
We'll learn as we
petitions.
go along.
I'm
Well,
bad with
yeah.
petitions. I'm good with bullhorns.
Yeah, I think it's what Najila said. We have to learn as we go along,
Yeah.
and um, keep being open to learning as well. And I think that's also what we are asking of the board at the end of the day, to stay open and maybe learn a few new things and implement
And
that, right?
evolve.
Yeah.
Let's evolve.
Yes.
We
Yes.
Yes.
cannot. It is not something that life is not stagnant, and if we don't grow, we die. So let's evolve together. This is not it's not a do or die situation, but it is something that is, I feel, can hurt a lot of the creativity, the individuality of our children. You stifle it. Why stifle something when you can just let it grow? Literally.
No, I mean
Literally.
that's a great point, because there's so much literature out there that
Yeah.
talks about a child's natural intelligence, natural interest in so many different areas, and from time to go into, let's call it, the school system, something happens.
Yeah.
Something happens. For whatever reason, but something, that passion isn't as
You're
intense.
told to sit down and shut up.
For example,
And
for,
not by any fault. And teachers are also very confined by the curriculum that they're given, so they also feel a need to finish this curriculum as fast as possible. And because they're confined, a lot of the times what you have is that you start programming the children according to a certain way, and if you are not able to do it in a certain time, the only way we can do it is we can get everybody to sit down and be quiet so that
correct.
you can finish your sentence, so that
Mhm.
you can get it done. And it's not tough, because the teachers went in wanting to be creative, wanting
Of
to mold
course.
lines, so it's not that where there's no blaming of anyone in any situation, but the reality is the manner of the system kind of can hold creativity back,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately for us, but fortunately for them, because that's exactly what they want. Yeah, yeah. Don't worry. I said it. It's all right. I said it. I have no problem. And I think, yeah, I think Dr. Ramonda Hansa, she said it just before you said it. What are we teaching our children? How come we have to break their spirits, their potential artistic potential? That's what she said. So it comes in line almost with what you was talking about, right? And I think that in itself is a discussion on its own.
On its own.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
It's also
And
how people have said, "Oh, it's good for discipline." Like, discipline what? Discipline is teaching a child, instilling something in their heart and mind. It's not about their appearance. You can have tons of discipline and work towards a goal and look like, to be very honest, crap, right? You can. It's possible. Right?
I
It
think
is
Albert Einstein had lots of discipline. His hair was crappy.
who's that?
right.
But
Albert
any
Einstein.
picture of Albert Einstein, I'm just saying, he had hair like this. You know, your hair does not stifle your intelligence in any way,
It
Correct.
doesn't
be it
at
long,
all.
Correct.
short, or in between.
Correct. Correct. Because there are some people who look very presentable, but I probably wouldn't have a conversation with them. I probably wouldn't because, different culture, different ideology, but
Could
it's,
be
but
anything.
I totally agree. I don't think limiting or trying to get or trying to conform to a particular standard to suit some external, group is in our best interest
But
at all.
ideology, idea of what is just to basically say what their idea of what kept is, and then whose idea is what, and who should say what my child should look like, other than me.
Yes, indeed.
As
Yeah,
long as
I
my child smells good, is showered, and is healthy, then you've given them a decent foundation to start from.
yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. And the thing is, and this is the point I wanted to make also. You have discipline, you have conformity, two different
Mm,
things.
Yes.
We wanted to conform. You see, but that's not discipline. That
discipline.
don't that don't say nothing about discipline. You
Yes,
understand? But
indeed.
again, words.
Words.
Words. We just forget that words have meanings.
And we think we can mix them up because if it suits our ideas, it might be
Correct.
easier to.
Correct. Correct. And then it also becomes a question of power. The person who is holding that pen, right? They will feel as though, whatever they say goes, and, they have the right to maintain a certain standard and status quo. So, we can't ignore those dynamics either, you
Either.
see? But I'll
Mm.
tell you one thing, yeah. In my, quick scan of different articles, there are a number of Catholic schools making a serious attempt, to revisit their policies, especially when it comes to hair. So hopefully, the guy in charge. Yes, go ahead, Najila.
No, which is interesting because Natasha brought it up too, that in different countries, in different islands close by, I think you named a few of them. I don't know if you did in the show itself. They
Yes.
started changing their rules already. They don't have hair standards anymore,
Yeah,
and that's like
yeah.
right next door.
Yes. Yes. So that's why the comment was made that we are lacking, and we are, quite behind. There's no nice way of putting it. There's really no nice way of putting it.
And I mean, I feel like if the hair rule was challenged once, it should have been revisited when it was challenged at that time. Unfortunately, you don't see many of these petitions and actions coming across. St. Martin, in general, St. Martiners are go along to get along. That's how we are. We are go along to get along.
Which is
So because
very important as well. As we live on a small island, so it's important to
however,
have
it
some
then led
sense.
but in so we are go along to get along, which is good in most cases, or which is good and bad because unfortunately, if you go along to get along, then you don't stand up or make any changes. You just kind of
Hmm.
deal with
Or
status quo.
or you're hoping that someone else will get up, right, and represent your interest while you are able to maintain your perks, your job, let me stop because I have no experience in these things. So let me stop. Right?
But
But no,
also again, that also is, is I have to say I do totally get that perspective because, growing up in a one income household as a child, and I know a lot of people here go through that, and it comes back to that socioeconomic aspect where, if you do have fears to lose your job or to, like all those things are for a lot of people real fears. You cannot undermine that. Um, and I do understand that maybe then they will choose to go along to get along if that helps them to to
Keep the
maintain a roof over their head and have food on their plates for their children as well. We cannot undermine that, I find, and I don't mind to use my privilege that I have to stand up for a cause that will hopefully benefit all of our children.
but you see, here's the thing. Here's my concern, right? And you said it earlier. We teach our children about their rights. We teach them about speaking their mind, being respectful, and so forth. You understand? And then when they go out in society, right, they learn that, hey, it's totally, totally different. You understand? We teach them, like, I love history. I love Caribbean history. You name it, I love it, right? And we teach our boys and girls about great men of history, great women of history, right? I would imagine that you're teaching them, hopefully, to extract some of their qualities, right, in order to replicate it in society. I would imagine that. I don't think you just teach history to remember dates, places, and names. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So you're teaching about these great men and women, and then when they exercise, when they implement, when they activate these qualities, you shut them down. All right. So I think that's a bit dangerous. Yeah. And then next to that, what has happened, I think, is that because we are now punished when we stand up and voice our concerns, we then start to look externally, hoping that someone else will take on this burden, the proverbial lamb who has to be sacrificed. You understand? And I think we have to be very, very careful with that's concerned. And that's why I commended you earlier when I said that never underestimate the power of a small group to make big changes. Because at no time, every major change in history, right, was ignited by a small group.
Yeah.
Every single major movement, every benefit we enjoy today, and I'm gonna put on my labor union hat now. Every benefit we enjoy today is because a small group said, you know what, we're not working 16 hours a day. We demand the right to vote. You understand what I'm saying? It's because
Yes. Yes.
of a small group. So don't be surprised that maybe other parents in other schools who might be struggling or confronted with these things gives you a phone call and said, hey, how did you handle this? You understand? But it just takes a few to inspire the others. That's all. You just need a spark, right, to ignite a whole powder keg. That's all you need.
Very true.
Figuratively, of course. Figuratively, of course. Okay. I'm
We
not
shouldn't take
talking.
it literal. We shouldn't. I was about to get a powder keg.
Yeah. Right, right. So I'm gonna share that's my some of my thoughts with that concern. But Natasia, I did promise to keep it within the 60 minute. We hitting the 70 minutes now, right? Don't worry, I got you. It's Friday, right? So I'm not going to keep you all here any much longer, right? So just again, let's do that. Let me do it this way. Um, Once again, share the information about your flyer. I'm not sorry, flyer, your petition, right? How they can get it. I shared it in the chat, but maybe you might want to give a bit more information about it. For those persons who might have missed it.
Okay, so it's on www www.change.org, and it's called Ban Hair Policies in St. Martin. I think that's the title.
Mhm.
And it's in short that we would like to decide what we do with our children's hair, to each parent for their own child, um, without it affecting our relationship with the teachers or the schools or
Very
our child's school going. So to say.
okay. Thank you. Thank you. Najila, would you like to make any closing thoughts? Closing remarks, sorry.
I'm hoping that there are more people who are willing to join us in our petition to ban these hair rules. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for listening, even though I was here for like literally 10 minutes. Able to share my piece.
All right. Thank you
Yes,
so
thank you,
much.
everybody. Thank you,
Thank you. And
Bakari.
no, not a problem whatsoever. And of course, if there are any updates, that you think it's worth sharing, please feel free, send me a message, so that we can keep the public informed, and not only informed, but also inspired. Because don't be surprised, there are people who are silently cheering you on also. All
Oh,
right.
thank you.
Don't ever underestimate that. So Unity and Solidarity is always open to you all. Feel free, right? And before I close, I have to remind the family once again that tomorrow evening at 7 p.m., Mindful Elevation Caribbean is going to be having a very interesting discussion about, yes, domestic violence and restorative justice with their special guest, Miss Jamie Murilon. And of course, the podcast will be hosted by none other than Dr. Anders Ramonda Hansa. It starts at 7 p.m. St. Martin time, and you can follow it on the Facebook page at mindful.elevation.caribbean on Facebook, of course. So, family, thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, for much more videos, please visit our YouTube channel, Unity and Solidarity TV, and have fun. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And until the next time, one God, one aim, one destiny. Have a pleasant weekend and all of the very best.
Hey guys.
Bye.
Follow, 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 follow.